Okay, we are recording.
All right. Welcome,
Okay.
welcome, welcome, everyone,
Hello. Namaste.
to a wonderful experience and podcast with my good friend from across the globe, Malay.
Yes.
And I hope everyone gets something out of this today. If you do watch this, this is for my A level sociology students and anyone else who wants to watch it. Um, and we're going to talk about globalization today.
Right.
That's one of the subjects on your final exam papers that you need to know. And hopefully, this can help you wrap your head around it. I know the subject can be difficult, but I think it's a fun subject with sociology. So, first and foremost,
Yeah.
Mr. Malay,
Hi.
who are you?
I have been asking the same question my whole life. That's. um, I respond to the name of Malay. I just turned 20 4 days ago. And
Oh, happy birthday.
thank you. I am a final year mass communication student. I currently reside in India. So India is huge. I live in the most populous state of India. It's called Uttar Pradesh. In short, people just call it UP. I live in the capital of that state, Lucknow, and I do some freelance work as a UI UX designer to earn my livings. I live with my parents, and I shifted in this house around 1 year ago. That's me.
All right. So, you're in college now and you're doing freelance tech work basically.
Yeah, IT.
Awesome. That is awesome. Um, so, Wow, you answered all three questions of mine, right? Like, man, you are
I
good,
think so.
Malay.
Thanks.
So I was gonna pull Udar Pradesh. I'm probably butchering that.
It's fine. The people here have been butchering the state and its politics for years.
So how do you pronounce it again?
We call it Uttar Pradesh. It's Pradesh, but
Uh-huh.
generally we call it UP. Like in inside India, also we just call it. Oh, you're from UP. Oh, that's nice. We call it UP.
UP. All right. Well, I'm gonna try to share my screen.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
And that whole huge area right there, which is probably comparable, was probably bigger than Florida, probably bigger. I don't know what to compare that to. How big is that area?
Okay, I'll just check it on Google itself because generally I'm really bad with geography. I'll just check
No worries, buddy.
the
Oh, there's New
population
Delhi.
as well as
That's
area.
a huge city.
Yeah, that's our
And
capital.
what's your city called?
Lucknow, the one in the center. Lucknow. Luck. Yeah, the first wizard. Yeah, right. That.
Yeah, I classic Mr. Hendricks. Messing up tech. My students are very much used to that.
Right.
Let's zoom out here. Ooh, you're close to. You did tell me that before.
Uh,
Um, the Nepalese border
we are
in
almost
China.
94,000 square miles.
Whew. Um,
Our state.
I don't know what that's comparable to. I should, but
You guys use square miles, right?
yes.
So
Let's see what Texas is.
Florida is approximately 66,000 square miles.
Okay.
That's
All
huge.
right. It's big, but it's a weird shape.
Compared to like
It's
the more geometrical states of the United States.
it sort of looks like America's something or other, but we won't get into that. That's inappropriate. How dare I say something like that? This is for students. Okay. So, have you been to Nepal?
No, I haven't. My mom has been to Nepal. India and Nepal have a very friendly immigration policy. So when our currency works there, their currency works here. We can travel visa free without passport. It's almost an open border
Oh, cool.
with Nepal as well as Bhutan.
Um, and I do not know much about Bhutan. Um,
Neither do we.
the jokes. Um, and then your relationship with China, or not yours, but the Indian government's relationship with China is not. It is like a bad marriage, right? Am I wrong?
Yes, they're not the most friendly of neighbors. I mean, I don't know what. I think it goes back to independence and the first war of 1962 between India and China. I guess we took drastically different paths. So
Yes,
I guess it's
I would
because of
agree.
our different economic situations.
Um, I think as an American, just as an American independent, my view of India is way different than China. But I can't go into too much more. Um, Interesting. So, how many people live in in Lucknow?
Oh, in Lucknow, let me just check. I know in UP there are 235 million.
Ooh, wow. So in UP, there's how many million?
235.
Oh boy. So okay. So all right.
And
So that is where Mr. Malay is. And now let's go to where Mr. Hendricks is.
yes, we go to US.
Because I don't live in a house, if you didn't know that. I live in the middle of this lake in my underground layer. Okay.
Oh, so that they can't get to
So
you,
I have an
right?
underground layer right in the middle here, surrounded by alligators. Okay. And if anyone comes to try to get me, I have my alligators to protect me. So if we zoom out, there's the famous road called US 19. That's what I travel down each day. That's the road of death. One of the more, I like to claim it's one of the more deadly roads in America, but I can't back that up with any real numbers. That's been said by people around here for a very long time, but you know how things are said. Anyways, and I teach, if we travel all the way, no, I don't want to drop images. Jeepers. Classic Mr. Hendricks being bad at tech. So if we travel, yeah, I'll show you my county real quick.
Definitely, definitely.
So we were just here in this Palm Harbor region.
Okay.
There's a famous golf course. Trump's been there. That's where Trump stays. There's where I live in the middle of Lake Tarpon.
Okay.
And we travel down 19, which in the morning people are psychotic on, and a lot of accidents. But I'm talking to someone that lives in India, and you've told me before some stories.
Indian roads are like it's like Fluffy says. It's like ants. That's what Indian roads are like.
They're like ants. What do you mean?
Like they'll just walk together, 300, 400 of them, each one just tailgating the other vehicle, and no matter what happens to the road, even if there is no road, if there is an obstacle, we'll go over it, we'll go from the side, we'll dig under it, but the traffic stays moving. Nothing stops the flow of traffic in India, not even a dead body, nothing.
So if there was someone in trouble, would people stop and help them?
Yes, definitely, definitely. I mean, some people might, others might tend to look away, but generally, it's people are really uh, people are very social in India. Sometimes to almost unsolicited. too friendly. People are too friendly, I would say, but that's a good thing, I guess.
Yeah, I've heard a statement about the English and an Indian family, and how like an English family was visiting um, an Indian family that kept offering them gifts.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah, I like the couch or something. Maybe you told me this. I'm not sure. And the English people kept taking the things, and the Indian family kept offering the things, which is the nice thing to do, but it was a cultural miscommunication because you're not supposed to take the things actually. Does that make sense?
uh,
I like.
in practical sense, like, I guess people in India will really take offense if you don't take their gifts. Uh, like
Oh, okay.
it's not appropriate for us to reject gifts, especially if they are coming from somebody elder to you. If somebody elder to you is giving you something, you receive it very graciously. But it is also part of your courtesy to not take something for free from those who are younger to you. So it kind
That
of works
those
like that.
are interesting. So let's zoom in at Old Hollands.
Wow, like it's so well planned. Like
You think
everything
this is
is,
well planned?
yeah, like this is so geometric.
I guess it is. Looking at, I've never actually. This is like one of the first times I've ever seen it from above, bird's eye.
I mean, like, I
It's our
guess
little area.
the quality of Google
I
Maps
park.
on US is
I
like
won't tell you where I
significantly
park.
better. Like everything looks so neat.
Well, this is an older school. So in our county, it's been populated for a while, but it really got populated after World War II when a lot of the vets moved in and air conditioning was invented. And it used to be called Dixie Hollands, which was named after the first superintendent
Hmm.
in our county. But because his first name was Dixie, which represented the Confederate States of America, a nickname for that,
Hmm.
we now just call it Hollands. But the students, it's a debate that's still happening. But the
Hmm.
official name now is Hollands High School.
That's
Um, and we changed our mascot from Rebels to Royals. Anyways, so when COVID hit, we were supposed to actually, I think, get a new school,
hmm.
but instead, because this was a lot of this was built in the 1960s, some of like the science building, I believe, 2000, like it's been built up over time. My principal put the money into a really cool courtyard. I like it. It's a debate.
Oh,
So that's the courtyard.
it's checkered. Like, is this painted blue and uh gray?
It's astroturf,
What?
I think.
Oh,
It's some type of thing. Like it's not grass.
yeah, it looks very different, very unique from above.
And then here's a green where the students will eat and stuff. Um,
Nice.
my class would be right here. Would be my classroom.
Why are there so
Um,
few trees?
um, it might be the time of year because these are
Ah,
usually blossoming. We actually have a good garden club.
okay.
Oh, here's why. Because these were just planted, a lot of this stuff.
Ah, all right. That explains it.
So a lot of this stuff was just planted, but that is a good point. There should be more trees. Um, Unfortunately, a lot of the trees have been cut down because it used to be more like that
Ah,
in this area
that's lush.
when the Native Americans lived here. Um, this was actually not this area, but I'll zoom out a lot and I'll show you um, where the old Native American capital used to be um, of the Tabo Taco Bagan Native Americans.
Yeah,
Um,
one thing I like, really like is that the school is very close to a water body. In India, living close to a water body is like it's so expensive. It's so ridiculously expensive that only the most elite can uh, afford to have the view of a lake or the view of a river from their window. Like it's a nice thing that schools have that in US.
yeah, a lot of them are retention ponds, and you never want to go into them ever, um,
Oh,
because it's not healthy water, or there might be a certain little friend, little reptile friend down there to meet you. But
mm,
yeah, Florida is definitely blessed with water. So this used to be a capital of all the of a major Native American tribe when the Spanish came,
okay.
and they unfortunately a lot of them got smallpox, and well, you can imagine what happened to most of them.
Hmm.
And then they later joined together with the Seminole Native American tribe. But yeah, that's this is the area where I live. It's pretty populated, pretty dense. Um, and I drive all the way down to this Hollands. I really like it. I think I'm blessed to teach there and teach my sociology students. Um, let's see here. Let me
Picnic Island? Damn.
say that again.
There was something marked as a picnic island.
A what island?
Picnic Island. I think
Oh yeah. Oh, those are all barrier islands, and a lot of them, not all, but some were built by dredging up different rivers and stuff and different channels for boats, and then they would just dump the sand into islands, and then stuff grew on them, and they actually are now little places where you would go and spend your Sunday on a boat.
Whoa.
It's actually kind of cool. And they protect us from hurricanes.
Nice. I mean, it's great to see how much, uh, like compared to India, how much the local governments in US spend on infrastructure and city planning and town planning. Like I know they are not like as high standard as let's say some European countries, but seeing this as an Indian, I mean that place looks better than a mall in India. Like that school looks significantly better than a mall. Like
So
priorities.
let's speaking of school in India, we need to get back to globalization,
Yeah,
but
sure.
let's say there's a situation with a student that's in the equivalent of high school in India that has a cell phone out in class, and the teacher says, "Hey, put that away," and they tell the teacher no. What would happen to that student?
Actually, as unfortunate as it is, Indian students are treated very horribly. So, smartphones or smartwatches or any kind of uh, tech is not actually allowed in schools. So, if you're a student, up until you're like 16, 17, like unless you graduate, and of course, barring certain times of like, let's say some event is happening, other than that, you're not allowed to carry your smartphone with you to your school. You're not allowed to. Your smartphones will be confiscated, and then your parents would have to write an application and all that to get it back. Of course, legally you can of course get it back because legally it is theft. What the school is doing, it is theft. But it's a small disciplinary action. You get it back in 24 hours or so. Very rarely do teachers confiscate it for more than a year. That's very rare, but it does happen. Teachers can confiscate phones according to the school policy, not according to the law. But very rarely students use phones inside of schools. They don't carry them at all.
Are teachers allowed to hit students in India?
Legally not, but it happens so regularly that it has become a cultural norm that it's I mean it's accepted, but people do rebel against it. Many times we see events that okay, some student filed a complaint to the police and the matter went to the court, and then like it doesn't settle there. Like it sets a bad precedent. So if a teacher is physically assaulting a student, it is seen as the student must have done something to deserve it. So that unfortunately does happen till now. It does happen.
That's unfortunate. I'm just trying to show my students the differences
uh,
between
completely.
America and Indian education, even though I think you're very well educated, by the way. I mean,
Thanks.
obviously, you're doing pretty well. Um, okay, so what are your thoughts on globalization? How does globalization impact you?
Like for me, it is a great thing. Like I did not realize globalization as a topic until like in second semester of college. That was almost 1 year ago. We had this subject, globalization and mass media. So I got to figure out how much benefit I received. So before 1991, India was like highly socialist country. So foreign companies are not at all allowed to enter the Indian market to protect local businesses and government-run businesses. So what that would end up doing is that due to the local bureaucracy and whatnot, as a citizen of India, I was paying tax, but I was not getting any service worthy of it in return. Due to globalization, now I have a laptop which is from Dell, foreign company, LG, Korean company. My smartphone is from China. My tablet is from Korea. My desk, my headphones, everything that I have in this house, more than 90% of it is made somewhere other than India. It might have been assembled here, but the idea that I have the access to tech and resources which can be created by any person anywhere and I can purchase it, uh, that is a really good thing, and I think people don't appreciate it enough. And a lot of the times that all the negativity that globalization gets from the cultural elites of society who want to save our jobs and preserve ourselves. Yeah, come live in socialist India for 10 years. Globalization to me has been really beneficial, but I guess I was privileged enough to be able to use it to my advantage. So I guess the
So,
difference is like between globalization and colonization is a very bleak one. So we must be careful about that. But to me, it has largely been beneficial.
ooh, that's a great point. That's a great point. Um, so you said come live in socialist India for 10 years. What do you mean by that?
Uh, I guess I recently went to I recently went to Rishikesh. It's a hilly mountain area in India. It's up north, and I went there to attend a marriage. And what I find out is Uber doesn't work there. No local like gig economy doesn't work there at all. So you have to take the only services which are available there, which although are private, have a very strong union. So you end up paying three times, four times the cost of what you would pay traveling the same distance. It is because the unions there are so strong that in order to protect the local businesses or the government and businesses, they have completely outlawed any foreign entity uh, by saying that we are ecologically sensitive area. Like it's just taking away opportunities from me, right? If I have $1,000, I can buy a really good laptop in that price point. But imagine if foreign companies were not allowed. If living in isolationism, right? Isolationism is a fantasy. It's a great idea that works in your mind. Oh, if it's going to be just me and my loved ones, then I'll be all good. Doesn't work. You're not Wakanda. This is not MCU. In the real world, trade is a great thing. I guess trade is, people say compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. I say no, it's trade, buddy. Look at what trade has enabled me to do.
I would completely agree with that. I think it's great. But I am a big believer in unions, but unions also have to not be corrupt and not hurt. They have to help. And in America, I think we've lost a lot of our unions' power because they got tied in with the mafia in the
Hmm.
1970s, and it's a long story. I'm way simplifying it. Now they're coming back a little bit, but the pendulum swings both ways. But that's interesting how if you go to that area, it things are that much more because of the unions. Um, and I totally understand. I mean, that's a debate we're having in America about, um, you know, I guess, the powers of corporations. versus the people and protecting the people and the people's jobs. Um, Protectionism is what I would call it,
Yeah.
or America First, as some people call it. So it's an interesting debate. But if I'm going to share my screen again,
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, I guess protectionism is what is happening in India right now in the car sector. So in automobiles, India is pushing very heavily for electronic vehicles, but currently we do not have enough EV charging infrastructure to support a huge population of EVs. But we will not subsidize hybrid cars. We will only subsidize electronic cars. Why? Because hybrid car technology is way better. Uh, for Toyota is like leading the world in that. Hybrid technology for Toyota is great. Indian car manufacturers do not have that capability to produce good hybrid engines. So they are lobbying
hmm,
the government, and the government is also supporting them. So we are taxing hybrid cars very much and are subsidizing electronic vehicles a lot so that people buy more EVs instead of buying hybrid technology, which can like hybrid is like much better than EVs. But no,
can you see my screen? Can you see the book?
no, I can't. Have you selected that window and then click shared? Like if you're sharing a new tab, you can just like uh, share tab, share window, share screen, and then select the screen and then click share.
I got it now. I'm
Okay.
a, I'm a,
No worries, no
how about
worries.
now?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. So this is what the chapter that we went over,
Hmm.
um, and so basically the learning objectives of this chapter involve understanding how development can be defined through a range of social and economic indicators, including the two world, three worlds, and many worlds systems. Modernization, neo modernization, underdevelopment, dependency, and world systems theories of development, public and private forms of aid, including trade as aid, development debates focused around neoliberal and interventionist approaches, global and regional trends in population growth, debates about the consequences of global population growth, both pessimistic, which is the Malthusian and neo Malthusian views, and optimistic, which is demographic transition and Marxist approaches. Um, and then it also goes into demographic change in the context of migration, the strengths and limitations of absolute and relative definitions of poverty, consequences of poverty and causes, the economic and political and cultural dimensions of globalization, transnational corporations, which I would like to talk to you about, and
Definitely.
their role in our system. So it's a lot. And don't get me wrong, we're not going to sit here and talk about all of this. Um,
I was just thinking like with each and every word, like I had so many thoughts come up on all of these topics. It's like wow, like that's an intense discussion for any 21, 22 year old to have.
yeah, well, it's a lot to know too. And this test that they take at the end of this for college credit is very hard. And what has happened because of um, a lot of the different variables is they put two classes together into one. Basically, I have level one students, about, depending on the class, either 30 or 35 of them, maybe 25 of them. And then about five or so A level students, if that, and that's second level. And they get the short end of the stick because I have to focus on the larger class. And this is my first year teaching the class. So um, this is stuff I love this type of stuff. And it's been a challenge this year as a teacher to try to navigate this. So that's one reason why I asked you to do this tonight, or tomorrow morning, for you, and um, basically give them a perspective of globalization that, like, it's very much real. Look at this, like look at me and you. Like I'm
Yeah,
talking to someone in the UP right now in the morning.
there is a 10 hour
Um,
30-minute difference of time between us. I'm literally time traveling. I'm talking to somebody from the past.
yes, yes, you're done. Um, I think this is a great example of, I guess, the globalization of technology and how technology has sort of globalized, I guess, culture to an extent. There's a whole weird conversation
Definitely.
you could have, but that would be going off topic, and I am
Hmm.
known for that, by the way. Um,
I mean, arts, humanities as a subject, it's there is no topic. It's everything.
so, what would you classify India as? Um, let's see. So, this is GDP. India is ninth.
Mhm.
Um, so I know y'all rapidly industrialized. So according to the three world system, the first world is wealthy, industrialized, technologically developed capitalist economies of Western Europe, North America, and Japan. The second world is the relatively poor industrial semi-industrial communist societies such as China and the former USSR. The third world is the relatively impoverished pre and semi industrial nations with low levels of technological development in Africa, South America, and Southeast Asia. I I don't really like that definition, but of how they put that. That's very old school.
I mean, it is
Um,
true. They don't put the reason for it, but it is true. Uh, the reason why third world countries are underdeveloped is because they were colonized. That's it. Like, just add one line there, it's fine. Like, it's nothing wrong actually. It is true that third world countries do have lower levels of technological development, and it is because of how reliant we are on government to do stuff for us. Like, our former Reserve Bank of India's governor, Raghuram Rajan, he's a professor at London School of Economics. And he quoted someone else, and I'm quoting him. He said a very strong thing. He said, India grows at night. Why he said that is because during the day, the government is awake. So when the government sleeps, then it's the individuals of India, the middle class, that is doing all the moonlighting, all the freelancing work, bringing money from foreign to India and developing their business. Because here, the government has made it so difficult to earn modest money through business. Like, we are very anti-business even now. Like, we can project all we want. We can project to be as capitalist as we want. In our hearts, we know that we are socialist. So that thing shows actually.
um, so wow, that's interesting. So in your hearts, you think you're socialist. I totally meant you thought. I thought you meant something else by India grows at night. Like I thought you meant population.
That is not so true.
But golly, I'm a silly guy. Um, and all right, so here's the other classification:
The global
the
south
two
and the global
world
north.
system, the North-South divide. Um, 1980 by the Independent Commission on International Development Issues. Sounds like a fun place. More commonly known as the Brandt Report, focused
Hmm.
on the idea of a North South global divide. The most developed and wealthiest economies are largely found in the Northern Hemisphere, and the poorest, least developed in the Southern Hemisphere. Again, they're not going into the why, right? Like, I think what you said about colonialization
Hmm.
is very important. Um, do you think that led to the what you keep on talking about, like with dependency?
Yes, I guess. Like, dependency on trade basically. The raw material is present largely in the global south, but the technology and the methodology to refine that material and to commercialize it, the knowledge of trade and commerce, the knowledge of managing a society, distribution of revenue, managing supply chains, creating something of value with that raw material. A great example of this would be chocolate in Ghana. Like so make something of a raw material uh, that exists uh, a lot more in the global north, uh, and especially with the British and the US because of how strong their navies were. The British were known to be great sailors because they wanted to trade and they had to trade because they did not have the natural resources. The global south did have natural resources and we were like just living by or doing great, uh, like depending on how you see it. So I guess it's uh, the global
Well,
south needs to stop being bitter about things. Like if you're staying bitter about, oh, I was looted, I was looted, nothing. Why
well,
were
I
you
mean,
looted?
there is a point to being upset about something, but you're also right. Like that doesn't change history and what happened and the opportunities that are present now because I think we're in a shift in history at the moment post COVID, and opportunities are abounding.
Hmm.
Now, every nation controls their own future now. Basically, my theory goes that basically after World War II, I'm stealing this from a guy named Peter Zehan. After World War II, we all of a sudden realized that there was a very large communist country with a lot of people with a lot of guns that we may or may not get along with, even though we were buddies during the war and worked together.
Hmm.
And we might need help if things go down. So we basically offered people trade and business opportunities. And what you can say is the globalization of the world started. We also took over the British Empire, is my theory. Is we just took it over, except for the fact that we have our problems, but at that point in time, we were not about being, we were anti colonist because we started out as a colony that rebelled. Now, we had other issues, but we pretty much, from what I have read, forced the British, if they were going to keep relying on us for different loans, to start to give up some things. And, um, you could debate this point, but because other individuals like Gandhi, of course, and people in other areas definitely had to take action. But the main player who was willing to then play with these new, nations was the United States, who did not want them to go over to the other side. And
Yeah,
that then,
definitely, definitely.
for the second half of the century, shaped the entire world and created globalization.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
In India, we credit our independence just as much to Gandhi as we do to Adolf Hitler. Like,
so say that again.
in India, I would say, like we credit our independence just as much to Adolf Hitler as much as to Mahatma Gandhi. Because if it wasn't for Hitler putting the British in a weak position geopolitically, they literally did not have enough British men to appoint them as officers in India. Fighting
Wow.
age male British people were so like, I know I shouldn't make fun of wars, but like it's interesting how you don't have enough people to even rule a place. Like how to, so like we there is a section in India that has sympathies towards Hitler, uh, for what he did for India, knowingly or unknowingly. Like he was against the British, and so were we. So
That makes sense.
and
And without the Indian soldiers, the British military would not have been what it was
yeah, definitely,
either.
definitely.
Like, but that's very interesting. That makes sense though, right? Like, if you are against the people like that colonized you, it makes sense that the enemy of my enemies, my friend, right?
And today we are like the most vocal supporters of Israel. Like it's funny how that works.
Really?
Yeah, Indians love the Israelis because they hate the Muslims. So
Oh, wow.
it's all
I
about interest.
totally
It's
I whiffed on that one, man. Yeah, fascinating. Because I was going to ask you about that, and because I'll say over here it's now political.
mm,
Well, people don't want to talk about it. It's like I have to be careful with what I say because that topic is so heated. But I will say the left and the younger progressive left is very much for Palestine. Now, who's
same. Even in
for
India.
even okay? And now for people for Israel tend to be on both sides of the Republican and Democratic Party, tend to be the elites, tend to be the businesses. A lot of Floridians are for Israel because of there's just a lot of Israelis in Florida, but there's also a lot of Palestinians in Florida. I've come to find out, and I'm best friends with one of them. Um, it's a complex
Yeah,
situation, man,
definitely,
and
definitely. I mean,
I have my opinions on it, but I'm not going to share them. I'm here, maybe later with you, but
later. Yeah, right,
it,
right. In
it's
case. This report that you are showing, it's very similar to a report that we read back in second semester. It's called the McBride report. It's known as Many Voices, One Word. That was also a report from the United Nations, and it features the exact same terminology. Many word system, two word system, exact same terminology, exact same things that are being talked about in this
yeah. This is Cambridge. This is a British, the colonizers
version of things.
education program. So
But it's very
the mini
similar.
world system. Yeah, I'm going to read this real quick. So
Mhm.
it characterizes development in a more sophisticated way. It uses more categories and recognizes that the majority of societies have experienced some form of economic development since the Second World War. The many worlds system is based on a sliding scale of development that includes categories such as more economically developed, less economically developed, least economically developed, and newly industrializing countries. A newly industrializing country is a less developed country currently undergoing industrialization. Um, According to that guy, that Peter Zehan guy I mentioned, he thinks that um, a lot of these newly developed industrialized countries are going to really start to struggle once a multipolar world emerges, basically. Is his point. Um, that the United States is going to possibly stop caring as much about keeping this whole thing. I don't know how to describe it. Like the United States will care less, will care more about itself, basically, in the future moving forward,
Yeah, I mean,
and
no
its
country
friends.
likes its tax dollars going to maintain a like. Why bother when like why bother with the animals? Like that's where we as India think like we don't want our money going to helping the Maldives and whatnot. Like, why? Put the tax money here.
Well, with yeah, that's a big debate right now in America. I will say with the Ukraine, it has art directly to do with Russia and us trying to contain them, like we're back in the Cold War. Um, in Israel, that's a longer discussion. Um, so I guess the social indicators for this system are political. Um, Dang it, no, go back. Sorry about that. I don't know if you even saw what I did. Um, Accidentally clicked on go to some stupid site. So
I guess a lot of the emphasis for development is on globalist neoliberal economies and democracy for some reason. Like democracy as a virtue is being established as a metric for development. So, would Qatar be considered a developed country?
Ooh. I mean, I would say, of course they are, but Qatar, I mean, also they have a slave population, I would argue.
Right. So I
I
mean,
mean, right? Like
mm,
I think it was the Nepalese they brought in and treated like horrifically to build the world, what was it? The World Cup stuff.
FIFA stadium.
And I don't know what happened to those people. Are they still there? Did they go back home?
They have a
Did they make
kafala
money?
system over there, which like the passport of the employee is with the employer. Like that's terrible. Like, like I was
So
just thinking about this stuff. It's crazy how we define development.
yeah, um, yeah. Sociology it gets interesting. You know, this, and again, these students have to know all of this information and then be able to like answer a specific question about it in essay form at the end of the year.
Yeah, I guess
Um,
it's really difficult to grasp everything which is happening, especially like I as an Indian can do it much more easily because I as an Indian have been exposed to American TV shows, Japanese anime, Korean dramas, and Indian television shows right here sitting in my room because it is so prevalent in India. Somebody who's in America, maybe it is not as easy for them to uh, understand the role of sister-in-law and mother-in-law fighting. Why do the wife and the mother-in-law fight a lot in India? Because in India, it is a very contemporary theme in TV shows and movies. Like we understand US much more through the entertainment and Disney and Marvel and everything than I would say the US understands India because of how limited the entertainment sharing is due to globalization.
Interesting.
The flow of information is mostly one sided.
Yes, there was that one movie RRR,
Ah, yes.
um, and it was like a hit, and then we moved on. Even though I still love it and it's original, and I dig original films, and it seems like they're a thing of the past, but they're not. They're more and more coming out. But because they finally realize what makes money. Um, but that was so original. Just
Yeah.
you know, um, and it's interesting how Hollywood became Bollywood. That's another globalization thing.
Yeah, I guess
Um,
there was a sociologist, I think Hilbert Spencer. Maybe if I don't know if Hilbert Spencer or August Comte, I don't know who said this, that
uh-huh.
society, the changes in society can be classified as material and non-material changes. So material changes are this laptop, the chopsticks, yukata dress from Japan, maybe the attire of like maybe costumes in the US. If somebody likes the Iron Man movie, they can buy a T-shirt that is from Marvel. Non-material changes, the cultural ones, sitting in a particular way, talking to someone, using Japanese words in normal conversation, uh, eating in a certain way, dressing up in a certain way, talking in a certain way in a certain language. These changes take more time, but they are more permanent global changes, especially in terms of language and apparel.
Oh, interesting. Um, so old Marx. We're gonna talk about Marx and then get to
Yes, the bearded German
PNC.
guy.
Huh?
The thing about Marx, there are two guys from Germany that every student must know about: the bearded German guy and the guy with the silly mustache from Germany.
You're exactly right. If you're gonna know two Germans from history, those are the Germans to know. Um, and maybe read up on for your own good, but read up on in the right way. So, um, in
The link for
1867 marked
main
self-development in
calf
economic terms.
will be in the description.
um, Societies moved from one epoch to another as the means of economic production changed. Unique modes of production characterize three developmental phases: feudalism, capitalism, and then communism. Feudalism is, think of the Middle Ages in Europe, if you're unaware of that, and a lord overlooking the peasants. Capitalism is America, and then communism is,
The baddies.
think of not trying to think of a positive. I guess I wouldn't even classify modern China as communist, like North Korea, but mainly the Soviet Union. Um,
Cuba to some extent, one can say.
Cuba, yes, yes, Cuba to some extent. I would even argue there slowly. We're getting our fingers back into that pie. Don't you worry about that.
I guess
Um,
Vietnam identifies itself as communist. I don't know if.
oh, and I actually have a lot of Vietnamese students. You're absolutely right, and I would actually argue they've been kind of successful at it. Um, I don't know. I'm not. I need to be more educated on that subject. I do know that China is both communist while also being radically capitalist. Like to the just because everyone's ripping each other off, and they have tofu buildings. You ever heard of that?
No, what is tofu?
Basically, tofu construction is where they water down the cement so much that the building can't stand. So it's a scam. So they'll get government money to build something or
Oh God.
investors' money,
Hmm.
and then they'll just build this concrete that falls apart. And it's
Concrete
like a
that falls
major,
apart.
yeah, it's like a major problem over there. And they are now, because so many people have gotten angry, Xi Jinping is doing his populist thing and then arresting, and those people are no longer around. Um, you don't have the right to have a trial. I don't think
Yeah.
it's. I don't know. I
Social
don't know. I
credit
need to check.
score. No, no social credit score for you.
Yeah, right. No, your social credit score gets zeroed out,
uh, Damn.
gets checked out.
I really love the
Um,
way you phrased it. Concrete that falls apart.
yes.
Oh man.
Um, all right. We won't go through all this
Mhm.
because I'm actually gonna make like a separate video explaining a lot of these things. Let's go down to TNCs,
Mhm.
which are transnational corporations. So I had
Hmm.
um, an interesting professor once say in economics that there are no nations, that they don't exist anymore. They're just faces or masks that hide transnational corporations that really run the world. Um, so this guy was an interesting person. Um, Very sort of out there, but I liked him because he was a cool professor and thought differently. Um, and basically, a transnational corporation um, is a corporation that develops globally. McDonald's is probably the best example. Um, Calvin
McDonald's,
Klein.
Tesla, H&M, Zara, uh, Dell,
There you go.
Apple,
So I was going to ask you, what transnational corporations are around you?
every
Everything.
everything. India is trying to compete with China, and we want foreign companies to come here, and that is why the one thing I will give to the current government is that they have at least they have tried to open up the market to foreign players. There are issues, of course, there are always issues, but this government has been more friendly to foreign investors. Even though I don't know why the foreign direct investment to India has reduced, but I think they are doing something wrong. I don't know what, but at least on the face of it, they're very vocal about it that they want foreign companies to come to India. Apple has started manufacturing in India, so we have McDonald's. I personally love it. They have a different menu here though. Nothing includes beef. They have a
Well,
vegetarian
yeah.
menu here, so no beef.
Yeah, because wasn't there a riot when
Yeah,
they found out the fries were fried in like beef tallow or something?
something of that sort. In India, a cow is considered sacred, and pork is considered haram for the Muslim
Mm.
population. So both Hindus and Muslims do not want to eat pork or beef. So we have McDonald's, we have KFC, we have Domino's, we have Pizza Hut, we have Calvin Klein, we have Zara, we have H&M, we have Mercedes, uh, Apple. We like
So you have yes, okay.
everything, everything.
Um, so according to the book, transnational corporations or corporations based in a specific territory that operate in a range of countries and markets across national borders. So there are a lot of American TNCs, but there's also a lot of European. Can you think of any Indian TNCs?
An Indian company that operates globally. Have you guys heard of Reliance?
Say that again.
Reliance is maybe you guys have heard of Tata. Tata is a vehicle automotive, and Tata makes everything, like literally everything.
They sound familiar. Especially Reliance. What do they do?
They are petroleum. They are in telecommunications. They're everywhere. Even finances. Like
Yeah.
they do everything.
Okay. Yeah. Um,
A brand that for somebody in US would have heard of, originated in India. I think Peter England. I think
Say
so.
that again.
Peter England. Let me check if Peter England is an Indian company. Let me see actually. I mean, most transnational IT companies are run by Indians. Google, Microsoft, all of those.
Oh, that's fascinating. I never even thought about that. You're right. Yeah, especially Google. Like,
Google, we have Sundar Pichai, he's an Indian. Satya Nadella from Microsoft, an Indian. Indra Nui from PepsiCo, she was an Indian. Uh, and I guess the some Agarwal guy from Twitter before Elon Musk took over, the CEO of Twitter was also Indian. You know, when Twitter was good
yeah,
back in the day.
Musk is an interesting character because, like, he it depends on which company it is and like how much he actually does. But there's definitely other people running some of these companies, and
I
it
don't
might
think,
be.
yeah, I don't think there is any Indian company that people in the US would have heard of as such. Mahindra produces some vehicles. Tata is mostly known for its vehicles. I mean, not that I can think of immediately, but I guess maybe in future, hopefully. Have you guys heard of Byju's?
I have not.
Okay, they are the world's
What
biggest
is
edtech
that?
company.
It's the world's biggest.
EdTech company, education technology company.
And
They,
say what is it again?
Byju's, Byjus. Uh, it's an Indian company.
Okay,
It's
so
a
I will
unicorn.
say
It's
America is very isolationist with its educational tech
it's very
right
good.
now, at least.
It's a good thing. Stay that way.
Um, I don't. I don't know where we're going with education. It's like we're at a crossroads. But if we go the more the tech route, it'll definitely be within an American tech company. Um, we get there's so much paranoia within our school system about so many different things that if some foreign company was like running something, oh, there would be very upset parents at a meeting. I would imagine.
Yeah, Nick,
I
that's
could be wrong
great.
though.
I mean, like,
I mean, um, the idea that students are indoctrinated by public schools is almost a stereotype in America at this point, even though I don't think that's true. Like, I wish it was. I wish I could.
I wish I
That
was.
sounds crazy, but that's learning.
Yeah.
And indoctrination's learning. and was indoctrinating them as their phones.
I mean, in
You
India, it
know,
is a thing of pride. Like, if your child is being educated by a foreign entity or by a school affiliated with a foreign educational program, it is a thing of immense pride. I myself went to an English medium school, and even our founder was really impressed with Cambridge and whatnot. So our school was an IB school, International Baccalaureate. So we also followed a lot of Cambridge study material. So it's a thing of pride. Only the elites of the society are able to afford the fees to these schools.
oh, okay. Is there a public school system?
Yes, a very robust one. Very robust.
Okay. Um, yeah, India is definitely on their way up. Um,
I think we are the fourth or the fifth largest economy right now. What, $4 trillion economy? I think we are.
I mean, according to the book I always go to on globalization,
Yeah.
I know I keep on talking about it. He's very high on India. Like he just thinks that they'll be able to outcompete China. Um, that they will be less dependent on other countries, like for resources and oil. Um, China is going to have a major problem with oil, apparently, according to him. Um, I guess that depends on Russia too and their relationship, but they actually can have an issue because of the western part of Russia and the western part of, I'm sorry, the eastern part of Russia, the eastern part of China are like, you know, there's a boundary, and they don't always get along either. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that.
I wish India can actually become economically independent and robust so that we can actually take moral stands. In order to take moral stands, you have to be economically independent. So I guess what India has is a good moral image. I'm assuming, like, if China gets hold of a lot of military power, like they are going to attack Taiwan, they're going to expand. India, I don't think has such global ambitions. Like, we don't want
I
to
would agree.
invade.
I mean, the biggest issue from my American and Floridian perspective with India is just your all's relationship with Pakistan, which Pakistan seems to be having a lot of their own problems right now
Yeah,
with Afghanistan.
yeah,
Um, and the Taliban, and if they can keep the Pashtuns, if I'm getting that right,
yeah.
under control or not, more so than dealing with their issues with India right now. But I don't think India will just go out and attack them for no reason, like China will. China wants Taiwan. They don't. I mean, to them, it's not Taiwan; it's China, and it's been colonized, and they're going to take it back.
uh,
The Taiwanese think otherwise, so
the Taiwanese think I'm in a
and
relationship.
so
It's
do
just
we.
I, I'm in a relationship. It's just that the girl doesn't know it.
Yes. I will say that I have a lot of confidence in the American Navy. Um, and we'll see. I don't I don't know. So much depends on so many different variables, and how much how stretched thin the American military is, and how competent leadership is. Like, I'm almost surprised they haven't struck yet because of our current setup in Washington and the partisanship. But also, if something goes down that could unite, and if we're united, then good luck. You know. Um,
I guess a great perspective on globalization and power projection actually happens in like it's very uh, I'm very surprised that it is coming from Disney, actually, Disney Marvel. Like, if you have seen Black Panther or Wakanda Forever or Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the series, like, just these three shows have given me so much to think about. And I feel, oh, I went for entertainment. I came out really angry at something. I don't know why I was so angry. I just came out of like, what the hell? What the hell? And I
What
don't
were
know
you
why
angry about?
the way uh, Falcon and the Soldier portrays this new guy, John Walker. I loved him. Like what I just don't like how overcorrect the show writers have, how much of an overcorrection the show writers have done with Wakanda, as if saying, oh, if uh, we would have just left Africa alone, see how good they have become by being isolationist. No, no.
Oh well, yeah, that's Fantasyland woke Hollywood.
Think for more than 5 seconds. If a community is in isolation for more than 100 years, at one point they will all become inbreds. Think.
um, yeah, like Africa is such a difficult topic over here.
Yeah.
But what Americans often get wrong is like they don't ever look into Africa or African history. They don't know it. You know, half the people probably think it's a country, right? You know, and not like a series of nations that basically are divided by a gigantic desert and then a rainforest and then the um, southern sort of flatlands of South Africa. Um, and it's huge. Our globes in America make it look small, of course,
Why?
because that's
Why?
what we do.
Why?
But
Why?
it's huge.
Why would a globe make something look smaller? That's not the job of a globe. Why?
Well, it's, you know, in America, propaganda is very hidden.
Globe makes it look
And
smaller.
we got to be the biggest, baby. You know, I don't know why,
Oh my.
but
I
like
mean,
our propaganda is subtle. They call it's actually called the nudge theory,
oh, right.
which is they nudge you towards something,
I mean,
an idea
Indian
or
propaganda
something.
is like on your face propaganda. Like, come,
Punch
like,
you in the face.
yeah, like, we are the good guys. We are the divine. We have been blessed by gods. Feel proud that you are born in the best country. Like, okay, a person born in Uzbekistan must be crying. I'm sorry you're born in Uzbekistan, but you're not born in India. I'm so sorry. Cry. Cry about your faith.
All right, so I stopped sharing. I think that's we made it through. For any students that made it to this part, um, I'm going to make separate videos about each of these subjects so that you know them in greater detail. But I wanted to have this conversation with someone from across the world to show y'all a point um, about globalization and talk with someone that actually knows um, a good amount of sociology.
Thank you.
That's one of the reasons we began chatting with one another. Shoot, a while ago now at
I
this
think it's
point.
been 2 years approximately.
Yeah. So pen pals almost, but
Yes.
in a different 2020 way. Um, but we're going to keep talking about some other things. So if you want to stay tuned, you can. Education. Um, you sent me some articles on grade inflation. That grade
Yes.
scale you sent me was crazy. Um,
More than
I have
95% marks is A plus. Anything less than that is B, C, D, and anything less than 70% is F.
so that's going the opposite way. Um, so that happened with our Cambridge test last year, and I've caught some heat for that um, from students. You know, not the people like up top, but I actually care more about what the students think than what the bureaucrats that. Ugh. Anyways,
Yeah,
um,
that's what
you
teachers
know
are
that does
supposed to
matter to
do.
me, huh?
That's what teachers are supposed to do.
Yeah, you're supposed to, right?
And bureaucrats, bureaucrats in US. Why do you all have bureaucrats?
Man, I honestly think half of the jobs are just it's just a jobs program.
Bureaucracy is
You
the art of
know,
making the possible impossible.
it's like if you can't explain what you do in like a couple words,
Yeah.
you know your job is kind of like
The rise of
bullshit.
bullshit
Here we
jobs.
go.
That
I'm just
that
gonna
book.
cuss, bam,
Yeah.
profanity. It's BS, right? Like, for example, we have a reading assessment coordinator for kindergarteners. What do they do? You would think, okay, they run the tests for reading for kindergartners. Do kindergartners read? What do they read? How are you testing them? What do you do all day?
Yeah. And
And
and the two most important questions: what is the pay and how do I apply?
yeah, right, right, because
Uh,
they don't do anything.
I
You
want to sign
know.
up.
Oh, there's even better ones. That one actually sort of has a point. The um, superintendent of student culture.
Okay,
What does
so
that even mean?
it's maybe it's kind of like student council in Japanese anime. Student
Like,
culture.
and we also have teacher coaches. Like, I need a coach to come in and like coach me up, coach. What's the game plan?
As if there wasn't enough
Um,
sports metaphors used in American high schools. The last thing we need. More sports
yes,
people.
and so I mean, at one point, I thought that was just an avenue for burnt out teachers, which I get. I totally get that. Like, I need a year out of the classroom. I'm going to go and help some other people. But it's strangely political. And even though they make the same amount of money as everyone else, if not a little bit less, they think they're
Boy,
higher than the teachers somehow or like can tell us what to do.
damn.
I usually don't let them in. So my
Let
students
them
don't
in.
know that. Like, no, I tell them to leave. Now, I'm not talking about administrators or anyone. You got to let certain people in,
Of course.
but no coaches come in to tell me anything. I know what I'm wrong at. I know what I do wrong, and not like in a bad way, but I know where I can improve,
Yeah,
and
I
it's
mean,
on me to do that. But some person that doesn't care is not going to come in and tell me anything when that person was probably fired and put into that position because they're tenured.
yeah, I mean, I guess this is something I love about America is that not love, but something I kind of admire. Like I idolize this. Every idea is political, and anywhere you go, people are ready to just fight their ideas with yours. Like people are ready and willing to just hit you with their idea, which is inherently political, and then somebody else is ready and willing to challenge it, and then those two people who are yelling at top of their lungs, hurling, will be having food in the cafeteria in the next hour and saying, "You made a good point. You made me think. I appreciate that." And I just, I wish we had that in our universities. We could talk about political ideas. I wish we had that kind of culture here.
Well, it was really good when I was at Florida State University, but I'm afraid this is one of the things I fear is that this division that's occurring where people can't just sit down and go have our disagreements and then go have like a beer or something or whatever. Because it was like that for so long, and then now it's calmed down a lot. Like, if certain speakers went to certain campuses, there would be like huge protests against the speakers.
Hmm.
Now that doesn't really happen anymore because universities are sort of forced by their alumni. I wrote some letters like, "Hey, you're supposed to be a bastion of free speech. What are you doing? You're allowing students to bully other students from hearing a speaker. I don't care what that speaker says. It's open discussion, even if it's disgusting. and the person's gross, even if it's Alex Jones and he's coming up talking about gay frogs. It doesn't matter. You're in college, you're supposed to learn, and part of learning is learning, stuff that can be, tough. You know, learning about the Holocaust is like really tough. But you're going to just pretend it doesn't exist? You know.
Yeah.
So I'm really. It seems to have been a turning around lately and calming down, but now we're entering the election time. And 2024 is
Ah,
this is going to
yes.
be a wild year. And I know you told me Indian elections. So is Modi up for re-election?
Yes, yes, yes. Modi ji, our respected Prime Minister, is up for re-election, and we have a new alliance in India of all small regional parties. It's called the INDIA. It's called the India Alliance. So the name of the country and the name of the political party are the same. So yeah, I think this is going to be a big year. Lots of major changes coming up. Great year.
So is that party against Modi?
Yeah, against the BJP and the NDA alliance. Let's
Are
see.
they more like socialist?
uh, in the past they have been, but even they understand that capital is important to run anything. You need money. They have been capitalist with their corruption, but with the public they have been very socialist. So that's what their history is.
Interesting.
Capitalism for me, but communism for thee.
So, how do you think the election in India will go?
I think BJP is going to come in power again. I think Modi is going to win. The reason for that is people are really, really, really fed up with the opposition. The opposition is so inefficient. Like they never raise the important issues to the public. And if by any chance the opposition wins, I'm assuming one day before the election, in the Israeli consulate or the Israel embassy in India, a lot of our news media anchors and media channels are going to have their rooms booked. Because as soon as the government changes, the first thing the opposition is going to do is that they are going to call out the media and ask them, what have you made of this country? The amount of bigotry and hatred that Indian media has spread against minorities, against against any dissenting voice, has been so ridiculous in the last 10 years that the public demands an apology from the media and the opposition, that how can you let this happen if by any chance the opposition wins, which I don't think is going to happen. On the life of an average citizen, I don't think it is going to matter much at all. But it is nice gossip, and middle class loves to discuss stuff that they think that they are too important to discuss. So I'll just let it
Wow,
pass.
that is so similar to America. Like everyone treats it so seriously, and the middle class loves to discuss it, but neither candidate is going to do much for anyone. Um, just hopefully not get us into a war. That's all I'm concerned about. It's like, all right, which one is less likely to like send my students off to some pointless? Because neither candidate's going to do anything. Like, we just literally have spent 4 years with both. We had actually Trump did accomplish some of his stuff, like tax cuts, wall halfway, a quarter of the way, but the wall. Um, but he was also going against heavy opposition,
Yeah.
something I've never seen Democrats like act before. Like it's almost embarrassing.
For all the
Um,
hatred that he got, I mean, like, why did you not have someone better? Like that was my question. This is the same question that I
oh,
have with our opposition as well. Like, okay, you're saying, oh, he's the worst. Then where are all the great Indians or Americans? Like, okay, I get it. Okay, politicians are bad. Okay, where are all the great visionary leaders then? Come up, stand.
This is something I've been thinking about for a while because I've been asking myself the same question. Like, where is the FDR? Where is the JFK LBJ? Where's the LBJ, the big old Texan rolling in, going, "I'm going to end poverty"? I mean, talk about a statement. This is a program to end poverty. That's like a crazy thing, and he tried to do it. And his program did help people, and you can debate it all day long um, about its original intentions and then what it sort of became, the war on poverty. But we don't have any either side.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Like
this is something.
outside of Trump,
Yeah,
who is who he is, um, Biden and who he is. Like if you look, it's almost as if Biden doesn't want to put any strong people around him because that's what I actually think has happened. Is if I was his age, I wouldn't surround myself with capable people, you know, because then I'm easily replaceable.
I guess both
Like
of
Pete
them are
Buttigieg,
like really old. I think if I'm not wrong, they are the oldest presidential candidates to run, and they are breaking their own record, which they set the last time they both ran.
yeah, yeah, I
Um,
believe so. I, would, uh, I believe so, and it's I see Biden, and it's kind of sad, right? Because I don't disagree with what his actual policies are, but did he write those, and who did, and what happens to him? And I'm not a fan of his vice president, and not has anything to do with her, gender or race. It has everything to do with her ability.
exactly.
She can't do a speech in front of people. If you can't publicly speak, you can't.
Hmm. Did we lose our internet connection?